Brilliance Audio.
Dragon Lover by Donna Grant. Performed by Anthony Ferguson. Kendrick should have been prepared for the disbelief reflected in Isha's golden amber eyes, but he was still shocked by it. He'd been worried about telling her who he was, debated with himself about lying. But if he were going to convince her that they should hunt their mutual foe together, he decided that honesty was best. Now he wondered if he'd made a mistake. He thought about showing her, but then he remembered not being able to shift after his skirmish. He was still shaken by that encounter and everything he'd experienced. He'd had time to think about it as they traveled toward the plateau, and he was no closer to saying what he'd fought. Their travels had also given his body time to deal with the remaining residual magic. Yet his 3 unsuccessful attempts to shift left him concerned that the entity might have changed him permanently. Their long trek had given him something else as well. Time to study the intriguing and beautiful warrior who had dared to put her blade against his throat. Kendrick was well acquainted with the human portrayal of elves on Earth in every form of entertainment there was, but he had never encountered one before. He'd thought them pure fiction, until he stood before not just one but nearly a dozen. He had so many questions, and it was difficult to keep from asking them. He doubted Isha would share much until she knew she could trust him. The elves around him had different coloring, and though he tried not to stare, he couldn't help his curiosity. Worse, he couldn't stop ogling Isha. From the moment his gaze landed on her, he had been utterly transfixed. She was on the taller side of average, and the way she moved with such fluid motions when she fought suggested that she was far from new to battle. Her brown skin had a golden glow in the sun that almost made it appear as if she were sprinkled with gold dust. He longed to sink his fingers into the wavy length of her tawny hair that reminded him of a lion's coat with 2 thick braids on either side of her head that were then gathered into one braid that fell with the rest of her locks past her shoulder. Pointed ears protruded from her hair. Her right ear had a piercing near the tip with a chain attached to a tiny cuff lower down. His gaze moved to her oval face. Her delicate features consisted of a small nose, plump lips with the lower more pronounced, and captivating golden amber, almond-shaped eyes. Those eyes watched him curiously now. The markings on her face intrigued him. Small white dots followed the curve of each brow. In the middle of her forehead was a circle of white about the size of a dime, with 8 lines protruding from it. A thin white line started at her cheek and faded near her temple. She wore a simple cream shirt that was both functional and somehow sexy. A leather corset with 4 buckles molded her body from just under her breasts to her hips. Leather vambraces with a beautiful golden design protected her forearms. Trousers of deep brown covered her legs, hugging them like a second skin and allowing her to move easily. Plain leather boots covered her feet up to her knees. A leather strap hung at her hips, where she had a dagger tied to her right thigh. Another harness lay across her body, her sword resting at her back in its scabbard. Isha quirked a brow at his perusal before going to speak to the other elves. A couple had her coloring. Kendrick couldn't wait to learn everything about them. His brethren would be excited about receiving information on the elves. That thought made him flinch, a reminder that he hadn't told anyone where he was. It would be wise to contact Con immediately. With Meryl missing, he didn't want anyone worried about him. But if he told Con where he was now, their king would likely order him back to his section to patrol. Not that he would blame Con. But this was a prime opportunity to learn about others on Zora. Those he was sure Eowyn and Branda knew nothing about. Not to mention gathering whatever knowledge they had on the thing he'd fought. He would give himself a little more time before checking in with Con and the others. It wasn't as if he couldn't get away from the Rangers any time he wanted.